Good morning, everyone. My name is Junho Myung from Yonsei University, South Korea. And it's a pleasure to be here to discuss institutional research strategy formulation based on SciVal topic analytics. And for those of you who may not be familiar with Yonsei University, let me give you a bit of background information for my home institution. So Yonsei University is a leading comprehensive university in South Korea. And it is famously known as one of the SKY universities, along with Seoul National University, Korea University, and Yonsei University, so top 3 in the nation. And we take pride in our rankings. We are sitting at 50th in QS and 78th in THE. So I'm really excited to be part of this session and exchange ideas with all of you today. So here is the outline for today's presentation. I will start with an overview of why and how we built a SciVal topic-based system. And following that, I will discuss an external environment analysis at both the ASJC and topic level using topic ID 462 language models as a primary case study. And then I will discuss an internal resources and capabilities for Yonsei University, specifically focusing at how we've utilized AI for this analysis. Then I will walk you through the network node analysis to visualize the global landscape. And finally, I will wrap up with a Q&A session to address any questions you may have. So here are the system objectives. So the motivation of building this system stems from the diverse needs of various stakeholders within the university. So from an institutional leadership perspective, the goal is to identify our research strengths and weaknesses for strategic planning and partnership decisions. And for planning and academic affairs, it's about discovering and recruiting top-tier researchers, detecting promising or underrepresented fields, and refining incentive systems. And research support offices can utilize the system to generate insights on key institutions and researchers to strengthen collaboration and secure targeted research funding. And for individual researchers, it helps them monitor topic-specific research trends and identify potential collaborators. But the most critical objective of this system is to generate research strategies by accurately assessing Yonsei's visibility across the various research topics. And within these strategies, the highest priority is placed on academic recruitment and hiring, ensuring we bring in the right talent to lead our research future. So before we dive deeper, I need to clarify what strategy truly means in this context. So broadly speaking, a strategy refers to an organization's capability to integrate, build, and reconfigure internal resources and competencies in response to rapidly changing environments. So David Tiss, a renowned authority on strategic management, defined this concept as the firm's ability to integrate, build and reconfigure internal and external competencies to address rapidly changing environments. So this definition is exactly what we aim to operationalize through a SciVal topic-based system. So by analyzing the external trends and internal resources, we enable the university to reconfigure its research focus and stay competitive in the global landscape. And another crucial concept we must address is learning by hiring. So it refers to the method of broadening and enhancing organizations' knowledge base by hiring the experts from other firms. So in the field of management, people are the ultimate key to catching up. And I want this system to serve as the decision-making framework for answering the question, whom should we hire to help our organization learn? So the Song et al. Defined this concept as the acquisition of knowledge through the hiring of experts from other firms. To understand why this is so vital, we need to distinguish between the two types of knowledge, so codified and tacit. Codified knowledge is structured information that can be easily transferred through manuals, guidelines, and documents. And since it is documented, it is relatively easy for others to imitate. The tacit knowledge, however, is a different story. It is deeply personal and difficult to transfer to others, which is why it is often called sticky knowledge. So examples include skills like swimming, riding a bicycle, or more relevantly, semiconductor design. When a highly sophisticated expertise is at the fingertips of an engineer, the only way for an organization to acquire the knowledge is to hire the person entirely. So by bringing the individual into the organization, we facilitate the transfer of the tacit knowledge. So that's the fundamental essence of learning by hiring. And to generate an effective strategy, we must analyze both the external environmental shifts and internal resources. And I've implemented two-step system for our external environment analysis. So at the ASJC level, I visualized the distribution of prominence percentile using bubble charts. And I also developed a custom impact index to visualize the yearly share of ASJC impact. And finally, I utilized the line chart and graph charts to conduct a gap analysis versus leading international competitive universities, specifically focusing at FWCI and scholarly output. And at the topic level, I've implemented the dashboard that highlights the top 5 institutions and authors by 2 categories: highest research performance and active research collaboration. So the research performance is calculated based on the sum of FWCI, while collaboration is measured based on the number of collaborative publications by institution and author. Now, moving on to our internal resources, I've visualized how Yonsei University's research performance stands against with leading international competitor universities at the ASJC level. And at the topic level, I use the exact same metric used in our external environment analysis to evaluate Yonsei University's research performance and collaboration. Now, let's take a closer look at our external environment analysis. So to begin, I'd like to define a key concept used in the system, prominence percentile. So according to the official definition, prominence is an indicator of the momentum or visibility of a particular topic. Since it directly reflects the momentum and shift within a research field, I determined it to be an ideal proxy for changes in the external environment. So the prominence percentile is calculated on a 100-point scale, combining 3 core elements: citation count, Scopus views count, and journal quality. So the closer the prominence value is to 100, the greater the level of attention from researchers. So for instance, a prominence percentile of 99 indicates a topic in the top 1% by research attention. And let me explain our ASJC to topic mapping methodology and the impact index we developed. So the data set spans from 2019 to 2024. covering approximately 24 million world publications. And we mapped over 94,000 topics across 27 ASJC major categories and 328 subcategories. And to quantify these trends, we formulated the impact index. So for each topic, we have annual data on both scholarly outputs and prominence percentile. So the denominator is the product sum of scholarly outputs and prominence percentile for all topics within an ASJC main category. And in the numerator, it's the same product sum between scholarly outputs and prominence percentile within an ASJC subcategory. So this normalized ratio represents the relative research power or influence that subcategory holds within its main ASJC. And the inspiration for this index came from my team leader, who suggested that since prominence represents a volume. Prominence represents velocity, while scholarly output represents volume. Multiplying them would result in a measure of power. And when we put this idea into practice, it proved to be a highly significant indicator. It allows us to visualize at a glance which subcategories are ascending or declining within its major ASJC category year by year, providing a robust baseline for gap analysis with leading universities in the same ASJC area. And from now on, I will demonstrate the actual system, but before we proceed, there are two key concepts I need to clarify. So the first one is how I categorize topics into the takeoff, maturity, or transition stages using the first and second derivatives of the annual impact index. So we adopted the S-curve model, which is widely used to assess growth stages of technology. And the research topic follows a similar life cycle. By calculating the first and second derivatives of the annual impact index, we can determine whether a specific topic is in a stage of takeoff, maturity, or a transition stage. So while first derivative sounds may complex, it is essentially calculating the gradient, the slope of impact index from 2019 to 2024. So if the gradient is positive, if the slope is positive, then the topic is initially being classified as being in the takeoff or maturity. And if the gradient is negative, the topic is in a decline or transition stage. And more specifically, if the gradient is positive and the second derivative is also positive, the topic is in a phase of rapid acceleration. However, when a second derivative falls below zero, it means the growth rate is decelerating and the topic moves toward maturity. And the next slides illustrate our strategic quadrant chart, which correlates Yonsei University's visibility with topic trend outlook. So the x-axis represents Yonsei University's visibility, while y-axis represents topic life cycle from transition to takeoff. And here, the first quadrant is our ideal position. Yonsei is already excelling in highly promising takeoff stages. And the third quadrant is also acceptable since Yonsei had a zero presence in topics that are naturally entering transition. So the real strategic value lies in second and first quadrant. So in the second quadrant, the topic is highly promising, yet Yonsei had zero visibility, as the current presence is minimal. So this is a critical strategic investment zone. So we must strategically concentrate resources through faculty hiring and collaborative research support. And in the first quadrant, Yonsei is showing a top performance in topics that are unfortunately in transition. So we should promote this serves as a signal to pivot our research direction. So we need to promote shifts in research direction by focusing support on promising topics. So by mapping all our research activities this way, we can move beyond the simple data collections and transform it into actionable institutional research strategy. And from now on, I will demonstrate my actual system. So here are the front page of our SciVal topic-based system. And the objectives are written in Korean. And there are 27 major ASJC categories from multidisciplinary to health professions. And the system is designed with a drill-down structure. So clicking a major category reveals its subcategories. And selecting a subcategory reveals detailed subtopics mapped within this category. And circling back to our external environment analysis at the ASJC level, these bubble charts represents the distribution of topics by prominence percentile. It shows the number of individual topics categorized by their average prominence percentile over the past 6 years. So for example, if you look at ASJC 1203 language and linguistics, there are 41 topics with a percentile above 90, while almost 1,500 topics are with a percentile below 70, which means these topics are in the bottom 70% in terms of global research attention. In contrast, when we look history, there's only one topic with a percentile above 90. Almost 4,100 topics are below 70th percentile. So when we first designed this chart, we hoped to identify at a glance which subcategories were dominant within its ASJC, but it wasn't as intuitive as we expected. So that's why we added the second chart below. So this chart was built based on the impact index we developed, and it makes the annual shift in subcategory importance much clearer. So for example, the impact index of language and linguistics skyrocketed from 19.1% in 2019 to 26.9% in 2024. So this is because large language models have taken the world by storm, leading to a simultaneous surge for both scholarly outputs and prominence percentile for related topics. On the other hand, in contrast, the relative weight of other fields like general arts and humanities and history, archaeology has gradually decreased. So now that we've confirmed the growing importance of language and linguistics, the next step is to evaluate how Yonsei is performing relative to our peers in these important sectors. So as we scroll down, there is a FWCI line chart and a scholarly output area graph. And on the FWCI line chart, the blue solid line represents Yonsei University's average FWCI, while gray solid line represents Harvard, and the dotted gray line represents SNU. And over the past 6 years, the Yonsei University's average FWCI on language and linguistics stands at 2.37. In contrast, Harvard recorded 2.03, and Seoul National University 1.26. So this clearly indicates that in terms of research quality, Yonsei has been producing highly impactful work in this research field. However, as we look at scholarly output, the landscape shifts. Yonsei produced 235 papers, while Formulation University produced 397 papers, and Harvard lead with 766. So the Yonsei's publication volume is only about 1/3 of Harvard's and roughly half of SNU's. In summary, Yonsei is excelling in our research quality, but quantitative output remains low compared to our domestic and global peers. So this is a clear need for improvement, and we need to focus on expanding this research capacity in this area. And let me click language and linguistics. You can see the detailed subtopics within it. And the topics are sorted by their impact index within the arts and humanities as of 2024. So this means we are not just looking at research interest, prominence percentile, but at a ranking that directly reflects the actual volume of research. And for topic ID 462, it currently accounts for 5.377% of the total impact index share within the arts and humanities. So to put this into perspective, its share was only 0.358% in 2019. So this is truly an explosive growth rate. And next to the topic name, I've included spark lines that display the annual impact index for each topic. And it allows us to identify at a glance which topics are in a stage of takeoff, transition, or maturity within its ASJC category. And now let me click topic ID 462 to dive into the details. So here is the time series trend analysis for our external environment analysis at the topic level. And these charts display the annual data on scholarly outputs and number of authors and citation counts, FWCI, and the prominence percentile. And when we closely look at topic ID 462, the growth is staggering. So in terms of volume, publication has skyrocketed from 480 in 2019 to 8,500 in 2024. And the number of authors also surged from 1,500 to 31,000 in 2024. So both metrics have seen a nearly 20-fold increase. And citation counts have shifted from 105,000 to 38,000 in 2024. And the FWCI saw a drop from a 12.43 to 2.41. Still remains at a high level. And the prominence percentile rose from 97 to almost 100 from 2020 onwards. So this indicates the topic has consistently maintained the highest possible level of global research interest. And to gain a deeper understanding of our time series trend analysis, we ran the data through our locally hosted GPT OSS 120B model on our GPU server. And here is the generated analysis by AI. So the model notes that in terms of quantitative expansion, an approximate 17-fold growth in the number of papers and a 20-fold increase in the number of authors. And then interestingly, the average number of authors per paper rose modestly from 3.2 to 3.6. So indicating the research participation has broadened considerably, with the topic being actively adopted by both academia and industry. And addressing the decline of FWCI, the model suggests two main reasons. The first one is the rapid surge in paper volume has naturally diminished the relative visibility of individual studies, or that the newer research hasn't yet simply accrued sufficient citations. And the AI also points out a drop in citation count is likely a temporary phenomenon, given the short citation accumulation period for recent papers. And prominence percentile rose from 97 to 100, indicating the topic is assuming an increasingly central position across the entire field. So the model concludes that the topic remains in a robust growth phase, and over the next few years, the number of papers and authors are likely to sustain an average annual growth rate exceeding 30%. However, the model also suggests that making high-quality research and innovative methodologies will be the key drivers of differentiated impact moving forward. Now, having analyzed our external environment analysis, let's now turn to competitive landscape. So I've implemented a dashboard that highlights the top 5 institutions and authors by highest research performance and active collaboration. And as you can see, the US-based institutions and authors are dominating the entire field. So Google holds an undisputable first place. We had a cumulative FWCI of 9,500. And across 515 papers, they maintain a staggering average FWCI of 18.51, and they are followed by Carnegie Mellon University, Stanford, Allen Institute, and Tsinghua University. And author rankings tells a similar story. So leading the packs are the figures like Jacob Devlin, the architect of BERT, and alongside the researchers of OpenAI. And please note that these rankings focus on primary authorship, so first authors or corresponding authors. However, when we look at collaboration, the landscape shifts. So in terms of the absolute value, Chinese institutions are exceptionally active. So Chinese Academy of Sciences and University of Chinese Academy of Sciences lead with 336 joint papers. And this suggests a dense collaborative network among Chinese researchers, often forming a large state-driven research clusters. So the model also notes that Google, Carnegie Mellon, Stanford, and Allen Institute as leaders due to their specialized infrastructure and abundant industry academic funding and global networks. And notably, Google and the Allen Institute blur the boundaries between industry and academia, excelling in rapid technology transfer and commercialization. And while the United States relies on collaboration between universities and research institutes, China utilizes state-driven research clusters as their primary driver. And the authors like Jacob Devlin and OpenAI achieved FWCI values in the hundreds or even thousands with only a few publications, indicating the development of high-performance large-scale language models is concentrated within a small number of core research teams. And the author collaboration network exhibits a highly dense structure centered on Chinese researchers. Yonsei has published a total of 55 papers with an average FWCI of 2.04, which is slightly below the overall field average of 2.41. So the model suggests our future strategy should involve expanding joint research with partners that possess high FWCI and strengthening participation in emerging topics such as larger scale language models and multimodal learning. So having examined the external and competitive landscape, it's now turned to our internal resources. So as we've already noted, Yonsei published 55 papers with an average FWCI of 2.03, which is slightly below the overall average. And our collaboration portfolio is diverse, including institutions like Formulation University, Korean Advanced Institute of Science and Technology, which is often referred to KITE, and CMU, Allen Institute, and Naver, etc. However, there is a notable concern here. Despite CMU's outstanding research performance, our joint research with them resulted in only 0.3 average FWCI. So this means our joint collaboration with such a prestigious institution hasn't yet translated into high impact results. So the model also notes our average FWCI falls slightly short of the field's average. So our Yonsei's absolute performance is limited. And the model points out Allen Institute as our most successful collaborators, along with KIST and Seogang University also generate positive synergies, while the CMU and University of Wisconsin-Madison produce negligible citation effects, indicating a need to reassess research allocation in the future. And the collaboration portfolio spans domestic universities and research institutes, and industry partners such as Naver and Google. However, the current number of collaborative papers remains at the level of 2 to 5, indicating a need to identify long-term projects to deepen these relationships. So the model suggests our forthcoming strategy should focus on expanding collaborations with high citation partners and readjusting relationships with current collaborators that yield low citation impacts. And having, after a thorough analysis of our external environment, competitive landscape, and internal resources, it's time to generate a comprehensive strategy for Yonsei University. So given the fact that the field is expected to grow by over 30% over the next few years, our primary goal should be to raise on average FWCI to the 2.5 to 3 range. So the first innovative collaboration model should be research cluster joint research platform, including domestic universities such as SNU and KIST would serve as a core partners, bundling joint research tasks into long-term projects, and with each partner sharing its data and computing resources. And simultaneously, overseas and industry partners such as Google, Naver, and the Allen Institute would be invited to play a core technology transfer role, linking research outcomes to a rapid prototyping and service delivery open innovation line. And the second niche market comprises Korean multilingual models and NLP specialized for the medical and health sectors. So Yonsei University possesses top-tier medical infrastructure and access to electronic medical records, enabling the development of a Korean medical language model that it can be licensed to domestic hospitals and pharmaceutical companies. This would deliver a dual benefit of high-impact publications and new revenue streams. And the third strategy involves quantum computing-based language model research. So Yonsei is currently equipped with a cutting-edge, leading domestic quantum computing infrastructure, enabling the launch of a quantum LM pilot project within 1 to 2 years. So the initial objective is to validate token embedding optimization and sampling speed improvements using quantum circuits. So this constitutes a differentiated research area that most competing institutions have yet to explore, providing a platform for Yonsei to become a game changer in the field. So far, we've examined research strategy development with topic ID 462 as a primary case study. And I expect this strategy to serve as a minimum reference point for whether it's a literature perspective or individual faculties. And to conclude the technical overview, I applied this identical LLM-driven analysis for our all 94,000 topics in our database. And the true significance of this, in my view, is the massive efficiency gain. So what would have taken an enormous amount of time and human resources was automated and optimized through the LLM, enabling us to generate strategic insights at scale. So next, let's look at our network node analysis. The size of each node is determined by a cumulative FWCI of within its specific topic. And I've labeled top 5 institutions by country. So again, United States institutions are overwhelming the landscape. And as we adjust the filter in the top right, more nodes appear. And red node represents Korean institutions. And if we lower the top threshold to top 3%, Yonsei University emerges. So this is a clear, direct visual confirmation that Yonsei ranks in the top 3% globally within its language and modeling topic. And below the institutional map, I've also implemented author node network. And then again, US-based researchers show dominant performance. Red nodes represents Korean authors, and blue node represents Yonsei University, Yonsei affiliated authors. So the primary goal of this visualization is to provide a clear, actionable recruitment pool. So if we decide to learn by hiring, the system allows us to instantly identify who the top tier candidates are and where they are located. And while constructing this system, I encountered a challenge. To determine where Yonsei had visibility, a user would theoretically have to click through all 94,000 topics individually. So to solve this, I developed this Yonsei University visibility tab. And this tab shows the strategic quadrant chart I mentioned earlier. So the x-axis represents Yonsei's visibility, while y-axis represents topics lifecycle. And more specifically, I've turned the gradient of the impact index into z-scores. So the y-axis ranges from -4 to a maximum of 12. And as you can see, I deliberately expanded the upper range to allow for a more detailed analysis for high growth topics. And as we can see, topic ID 462 is positioned at the very top of the first quadrant. The gradient z-score exceeds maximum of 12, so putting it at the absolute peak of our chart. And fortunately, Yonsei is showing top-tier performance with top 3% globally within this rapidly accelerating field. And to the right, you can see the overall health of the sector. So, for example, in language and linguistics, there are almost 44% topics are in a stage of takeoff or maturity, and almost 56% are in transition. And again, the real strategic value lies in the second and first quadrants, and identifying issues in the second and first quadrants. So for example, topic ID 2529 has a z-score above 6, yet Yonsei's current presence is minimal. So this is a critical strategic investment zone. By clicking the topic, the system immediately displays the 5 top global and domestic primary authors. And as we can see, Whaley from UCL dominates globally with a cumulative FWCI of 256. And domestically, Professor Jang Jin-sil from Gangneung-Wonju National University is a current key figure. So this list serves as our primary talent pool. And conversely, topic ID 624, Yonsei ranks in the top 7.8% in topics that are unfortunately in decline in a transition. So this means we are reinvesting resources into a declining area. So looking at the author list, we can find several Yonsei affiliated authors. So to solve this, I've placed a recommended topic section at the bottom, sorted by z-score. So for example, topic ID 4909 has a z-score of 2.08. 4909 has a z-score of 2.08. So this suggests we should realign our research incentives to encourage faculty to pivot from declining topics like 624 to high growth opportunities like 4909. So this concludes my demonstration of how we can transform massive datasets into a actionable roadmap for university growth. Thank you for your attention, and I'd be happy to take any questions you may have.